It feels like the UFC just gave us a pay-per-view offering with UFC 300, but they are back once again, now with UFC 301, heading down to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, with UFC 301, headlined by a flyweight title fight between Alexandre Pantoja, looking to defend his title against the Cinderella story of Australian Steve Erceg. And then in the co-main event, the King of Rio returns to the UFC after taking a full year off from mixed martial arts combat. Jose Aldo takes on streaking prospect, 6-fight winning streak, Mr. Jonathan Martinez. There are a ton of other fun fights sprinkled out throughout the card, some hot prospects, some notable names, some legends as well. Maybe not as bolstering and fun as UFC 300. It's going to be tough to top that pay-per-view, but we get back to the regularly scheduled programming with the, mediocre pay-per-view offerings, and it's tough after having something like UFC 299, which was stacked, UFC 300, which was uber stacked, and now getting back to it with UFC 301. At least it's fights. At the end of the day, it is fights. All right, this is the quick picks version of the UFC 301 breakdown. If you're looking for the full breakdown where I go in depth on every single matchup, check out the MMA Logcast. Link for that will be in the description below, or you can click the banner above my head. If you're watching this on YouTube, I drop that every Monday of fight week. The quick picks is just me getting right to the nitty gritty of every single matchup, usually spending about 40 to 80 seconds on every single fight so we can get through this as quickly as possible. And just a quick reminder, there's also LFA and Octagon this weekend. So if you're looking for breakdowns for those, check out the Lock of the Night Patreon page. Link for that in the description below. And last plug before we get into the fights here, the MMA Fight Archive, making sure you leave no stone unturned when you're researching these upcoming MMA events with over 3,500 fighter profiles. Yes, you heard that right. 3,500 profiles on there right now, spanning over 17 different promotions from all over the world. We have the schedule lined up on a page for you guys where you can click on every single fighter that you want to research, and we have direct links to past fights for those guys. I'm the best in the world in terms of finding footage on these fighters. That's why there are multiple people that entrust me to do this. Plus, why we have close to 70 subscribers currently on there. You can try it out for free with a 7-day free trial. Check out the MMA Fight Archive. Link for that in the description below. All right, plugs out of the way. Hope you're laced up and ready to go, because we're off and running with the first fight of the night for UFC 301, and it goes down in the flyweight division between Alessandro Costa and Kevin Borjas. Borjas had a very hot start to his UFC debut against Joshua Van back in November. Unfortunately, he blew his wad a little bit too early, and I expect him to learn from that mistake this time around and put on the power striking pressure here against Alessandro Costa and eventually find the knockout within 2 rounds. Next up, we got Ismael Bonfim going up against Vince Pichel. Bonfim stumbled in his last matchup against Benoit Saint-Denis, but I expect him to have an even better showing here against Vince Pichel, who comes in at 41 years old and 2 years away from the cage. I think Bonfim is the slicker striker and can stay competitive in the grappling realm should Pichel look to take it there, but I think that Bonfim's slicker striking approach will start to catch up to Pichel and allow Bonfim to find the finish in the second or third round. Next up, we got Diony Barbosa going up against Ernesta Kareckaite. Very binary fight here in terms of grappler versus striker, but I do think it's the grappler here in Diony Barbosa who should be able to get the better of Ernesta. Look for Barbosa to utilize her judo black belt to get this fight to the ground, and then her BJJ black belt to put Kareckaite into bad positions, and I think it could potentially lead to a submission, but the ultimate prediction I'm going to go with here is Barbosa by decision. Next up, we got Maurizio Ruffy going up against Jamie Mullarkey. Ruffy is looking to earn his fifth straight victory in a row as he goes out there and utilizes his Conor McGregor-like striking style. It's very eerie to see the shadows of these guys and not be able to compare them, and Ruffy utilizes that straight punch down the pipe with a lot of heat and a lot of sting, and considering that Jamie Mullarkey has been knocked out 3 times in the last 2 years, I don't think his chin will fare well here against the precision striking approach of Ruffy. So give me Ruffy and Ruffy by knockout. Next up, we got Joaquim Silva going up against Drakkar Klose. Very fun fight here, but I think it's going to be Klose who will have the better overall game plan, utilizing striking and takedowns to outwork Silva. Silva will be dangerous with his early knockout power, but I think Klose is the completer or more complete fighter between the two. And even though he's coming off of his 36th birthday, I think he's capable of high-level performances still, and I think his chin should hold up. Give me Klose and Klose by decision. Next up, we got Gene Silva going up against William Gomis, a fight that has taken a lot of action this week as Gomis has found himself at near pick'em odds against Gene Silva now. This is a fight between two guys that like to utilize a lot of movement and striking from distance. Although we have seen Gomis use grappling in the past, I think that will not work out for him here against Silva, who should be able to land the bigger and better strikes. And I think that it could eventually either land Silva finding a knockout here or just outstriking Gomis, just chipping away with him on bigger shots and allowing him to go out there and get the decision victory. Close fight. I get the action on Gomis, but I ultimately think Gene Silva will come out victorious. Next up, we got Elvis Brener going up against Mick Tybeck Orolbai. Very intriguing matchup here. Brener has pulled off two big upset victories through his 3 UFC fights thus far, but I think his toughest opponent thus far is going to be Mr. Orolbai. I think Orolbai is very dangerous, especially when he gets his relentless grappling approach going, and I think that's going to cause Brener a ton of trouble. And we saw Guram Kutateladze have some decent success against Brener, but I think that Orolbai will showcase that he has a better gas tank and better cardio, and that should allow him to put Brener through the ringer, possibly find a finish later on in this matchup, but it could also go to a decision. I'm going to lean Orolbai. I don't mind his money line around that minus 250 range. I think it puts Brener through the ringer, and I am actually going to change my prediction here in regards to him winning by decision, which is where I thought earlier in the week, but I'm going to go with him to win inside the distance by breaking Brener and getting that finish in the second or third round. Next up, we got Karolina Kowalkiewicz going up against Yasmin Lucindo. Very tough to get behind a 22-year-old at minus 400 odds against a fighter as tenured and experienced as Karolina Kowalkiewicz. But I think stylistically speaking, Lucindo should be able to drag this fight into her realm with her grappling and heavy top approach. Kowalkiewicz will have the striking advantage in this matchup, but Lucindo has showcased a great chin and a good ability to crash the pocket and change levels to get fights to the mat. Look for Lucindo to utilize her grappling to grind out Kowalkiewicz over 15 minutes to get her hand raised by decision. Next up, we got Joanderson Brito coming in against Jack Shore. Very fun fight here between two very successful fighters, but I ultimately think it's going to be the underdog, Jack Shore, who's able to go out there and put the grind on Brito and come out victorious by decision. Brito will be very dangerous with his knockout power and his choking ability, but I don't expect Jack Shore to make the same mistakes that Jonathan Pierce made, allowing Shore to really wear on Brito over the course of 15 minutes so that he can win this fight by judge's decision. Next up, we got Paul Craig going up against Caio Borralho. Craig, we obviously know, is very dangerous, especially when he's able to lock up that triangle choke or get his jiu-jitsu game going. But he's definitely more dangerous from that top position than he is from the bottom. I think Borralho will showcase he is superior pretty much everywhere in this matchup. And there's a reason he is one of the hottest Brazilian prospects on the block. I think Borralho will use his grappling defensively here early to chip away at Craig and maybe even find a knockout. But I do think if he finds the openings and sees Craig starting to slow down, he'll look to take him to the ground and smash him from that top position. Look for Borralho to finish this fight within 2 or 3 rounds. Next up, we got Michel Pereira going up against Ihor Potieria. Pereira, obviously on a very crazy run right now, doing a very good job in terms of utilizing his big striking power and harnessing it over the course of 15 minutes if he needs to. This will be his 8th straight victory if he's able to get his hand raised this weekend, and 3rd straight at 185 pounds, and I expect his speed and power advantage to be more than enough for him to go out there and find the chin of Potieria and putting him out clean. Next up, we got Anthony Smith going up against Vitor Petrino. Smith has been taking on all comers, but this is a very tough matchup in Vitor Petrino, who's 11-0 right now and has showcased a development throughout pretty much every aspect of his MMA game. He came into the UFC as pretty much a power puncher looking to knock his opponents out, but as of late, he's been implementing a grapple-heavy approach in some of his fights, showcasing that he can take fights to the ground and still be successful deep into fights. I expect him to go out there, put big punches on Smith, and then eventually take him to the ground and grind him out over the course of 15 minutes, showcasing that he is ready for that step up in competition and that Anthony Smith is likely over the hill at this stage of his career. Give me Petrino and Petrino by decision. Co-main event time, streaking Jonathan Martinez takes on the returning King of Rio, Jose Aldo. Martinez is streaking right now, like I said, on a 6-fight winning streak, but I think he is facing his toughest opponent to date here in Jose Aldo, who has all the answers for the style and problems that Martinez has been wreaking on these 135-pound fighters. Martinez has been successful with his kicks as of late, but Jose Aldo is pretty much the godfather of the kicking game, and I think he'll be able to shut that down here against Martinez and utilize his speed and power advantage to crash the pocket and eventually find the chin of Martinez. I think although he's coming back from retirement and 37 years old, will still be able to showcase his hand speed and power, especially against a guy as uncomfortable as Jonathan Martinez is when he is forced to strike inside the pocket. Look for Aldo to march down Martinez and eventually knock him out. That brings us to our main event, of which I went pretty deep in during my full card breakdown earlier this week, and I would highly recommend you guys check that out. But getting to the main points here, I think Steve Erceg's BJJ black belt and ability to stay out of bad positions will allow him to survive the early onslaught of Pantoja and then stay away from Pantoja's ability to just hold on to opponents late in fights and just ride out those rounds. Erceg will force Pantoja to work for the majority of this fight, and I think we'll see eventually Erceg really turn up the volume in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, eventually finding that finish over Pantoja as he's starting to slow down heavily. Look for Erceg's slicker striking approach in deep waters to catch Pantoja off guard, and that will allow Erceg to overwhelm Pantoja and win this fight via TKO, standing and new Steve Erceg flyweight champion. There you guys go. Quick picks on all 14 fights for UFC 301. Reminder, check out the full card breakdown that I dropped earlier this week to hear exactly why, even more in depth, why I think these fighters will end up getting the hand raised. Check out the Lock of the Night Patreon page to see which official plays that I'm making. That's the Lock of the Night, Dog of the Night, and all the other track plays that I'll have. Not to mention action on LFA and Octagon, which go down this weekend as well. Appreciate all the love. Appreciate all the support. I'll see you guys again tomorrow for the Locky 2-Step, Locky Trinity free parlay, as well as the 3 best prop bets for UFC 301. I'll see you guys then. Peace.